And what I encourage people to do is to look to look out and beyond a little bit more, like try, right? Instead of criticize something, maybe read a little bit about something else or watch a little bit of something else, open your horizon. And once you do, you realize that there's a lot of similarities within cultures. There's a lot of similar struggles within people, and so and so. And so, with that, I always remind the people who I coach, or people I talk to, or people who I want to inspire, everybody's the same. And that is why when I host MC host with David Beckham, or the royals of Dutch, or anyone, or prime minister, it's people important like that. To me, the most important thing for me is to remember that everyone is the same and we're just doing our job. It doesn't matter if he's an international superstar or he's way richer than any of us combined. He's still a father, a husband, a person, and he has his own struggle with his own life. So I think that for people who sort of like struggle with identity, or a bit of confidence because they don't speak the language, or maybe they don't think that they dress the right way, or just you know just go for things, because that's what I really admire about certain people. They just go for things, right?
All right, welcome everybody back to Sean's Learning Adventure. And I have an awesome guest with me today. Can you tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Hi, Sean. My name is Ha Anh. Well, where do I start with what I do?
You do a lot
So,
of things,
a
right?
lot of things, a little bit of everything. So, I started out as a model. I went to the UK. I went to university there, and I became a model shortly after. Coming back to Vietnam, I introduced myself as a model at first, and then I went into TV. I wrote books. I worked with a lot of charities. I also tried for some time sing a little bit. And now I do a lot of coaching, judging on television show, for beauty pageant, for talent shows. But mainly what I'm working on to build for myself is actually coaching people
That's
on
awesome.
confidence and etiquettes and things like that.
Which is amazing because one of the things is that when I do research on everyone, and I've known you for a long time, but
Yeah.
when I was looking at what you've been doing lately, I've been seeing a lot of coaching, and I
Yes.
I want to ask you this, but like for coaching and for a lot of things, how important is communication? How important is communication as well in your success as well?
It is the most important thing. It is the most important thing, because I think, like, looking back on my career, when I first started out as a model, especially coming back to Vietnam, communication was everything. Communication is everything. How do I build myself as a newbie coming back to the market? How do I market myself? How do I communicate with brands, with people, with audience, and grow my fans, my fan base, and also followers and people who are interested? Is all about communication. Now, that's the mass communication, that's TV, uh, medias, etc. But communication on a one-to-one basis is very important. It's how you introduce yourself, how you represent yourself in front of the very real public in front of you. So, to me, it is one of the most important thing, because, as you know, coming back to Vietnam, I didn't have any knowledge of showbiz in Vietnam. Didn't have the I don't know, the team, the necessary, like, the team and support and money, so to say, to support myself. So all communication has to for me, is from me. How do I network with people? How do I introduce and getting different opportunities? And how do I come across as a personal, as a new talent, also as a businesswoman, to
That's it.
basically market myself. Yeah.
Because we're not just one of the things that my wife and I deal with our daughter is that people try to put her in a box already.
Yeah.
She's 10, she's
Yes.
tall, and they're like, she could be this or
Yeah.
this or this.
Yes.
And today I was talking to Ailani and I said, you can be anything, but you
Yes.
have to figure out what it is that you want to be and project that, you know? And so, like, you can be a painter, but if you want to
Yes.
be a successful painter, you need to know how to market yourself. You need to
That's
know how
right.
to build yourself. And one of the questions I had is because you're working with people, I got to study acting with one of the most amazing teachers that's ever taught acting. Her name's Ivana Chubbuck, and she teaches you how to command a scene, how to command a room. And for me, when I walk in and I do public speaking in places, I have to, the second I walk in, I have to figure out how to capture that room. But you know where I
Mm.
learned this? I learned this from teaching kids English for many, many
Right.
years. Walking into a room of 20 to 38-year-olds, you have to figure out how to stand down, you know? Yeah,
That's
eight,
totally.
right? But I want to
Sometimes that's
add,
like more difficult than actually walking
right?
in front of like thousands of people. Actually.
Right? You know, and those 8-year-olds, man, they will be like, give, yeah, hey, I remember one kid came up to me one day and he's like, Teacher Sean. I said, yes. What's up? And he's like, this lesson that you're doing right here, it's horrible. And I was just like, okay, let's change.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
But one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because I saw you in one of your videos online doing this, and I know that as a model, as a business person, doesn't matter which of your roles, you stand out. And why do some people naturally stand out when they walk into a room while others seem to just disappear?
Right. I think first of all, the heights help, obviously,
Yeah.
because people can't ignore you. But the thing that is more important, I think, is your confidence of
Yeah.
when you walk into a room. A lot of people, of course, everyone gets nervous, right? Walking in front of, like, going inside a big crowd or people you don't know, or someone that you somewhat think, oh, maybe what they think about me. But what people stand out the people that stand out is the people who know how to take their time walking into a space, right? You
Yes.
don't rush in. You don't, like, walk in with attitude like you own everything, but you do kind of like know your space and your presence. You have to have a presence, meaning, to me, it is about knowing yourself from deep within, like what you represent, what is
Yeah.
your value, and you walk in there with the confidence of, I know who I am. And that is a very good quality to have, because once you know what you represent, you walk in there with dignity, with pride, with confidence, with humility, and you are eager to connect to people. And that's the energy that can comes from your eyes, your body language. You sort of like being open with your language and with your face. Like, you can see now, like, I'm open talking to you,
Yeah.
right? I'm not like looking away. I'm not, you know, I'm right here. I'm ready
Yes.
to talk to you. So when people have that kind of presence, it is very attractive. It is also very open, and people are sort of like gearing towards this kind of energy. And so that's why I think there's certain people that comes in as like, who is that? Like, even though they're not
Right.
famous, or they may dress simple but nice, but that confidence is something that intrigue people, I think. So I think everyone should try and learn to have this kind of presence, this kind of respectfully own your space and claim your space in every room.
I remember that early in my career, making video and doing content for people, I actually was making videos for actors, but also UFC fighters.
Right.
And one of the most interesting things is when you watch the face off between two fighters will walk into a room and they stare at each other. And there
Right.
was this thing that I saw people doing, and they were looking at posture about how the two people stood next to each other. And
Hmm.
one person, the person that was standing up and straight, often always beat the person with the question mark
Yes.
posture. The person
Yes.
question mark posture was like a
For
little bit
sure.
down, and they were just, you could see in
Yeah.
the posture of the two people, the lack of confidence, the lack of the
Definitely.
the fear, the trepidation, and it's one of the things that I think is really interesting because it's one of the things that we can work on. We can't work on our
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
personality.
for sure, definitely. And that's why
Yeah.
I said I made a joke at the beginning about, being tall help. But you don't
Yeah.
have to be tall. You can stand tall. It doesn't matter what your
Exactly.
height is, right? And you look at
Mhm.
like international celebrity, look at Tom Cruise, look at all of the movie star, right? They
Yeah.
don't have to be super tall, but when you stand tall with confidence, you look like the tallest person, you stand out and you're comfortable with yourself. So posture is definitely something you can train and learn to have for
Yeah.
yourself. So you can be in any public, you can, be nicely, you can talk to people with confidence and with comfort.
Yeah. And I want to ask you this, but around
Mhm.
confidence, because do you think confidence is something you are born with or something that you can build?
Both. You can be born with confidence, some more than others, but also confidence can be encouraged and
Yeah.
confidence can be learned. So, for example, like for me, for example, I am a people. Some people don't believe this, but I'm actually a very introvert person. Right? It's not my comfortable place to be in the crowd or in like five,
Yeah.
10 people, but through time and through knowing this is what I have to do, I train my mind and myself to have this skill of if I have to go, I have to talk to people. This is me. So it's
Yeah.
definitely something you can be learned with the right encouragement from parents or from your teacher or mentor or friends. You kind of like slowly opening up to situation where you're
Yeah.
not necessarily comfortable with. So, for example, you were talking about Alana and myself, my daughter Mila.
Yeah.
When they go into public or they have to perform something, maybe it's a recital or it's talking in front of people, right? At
Yeah.
the beginning, of course, it's a natural thing to be nervous. Like, who is not nervous? I am nervous, right?
Right.
In like even talking like opening up a conversation with you because I don't really know you,
Yes.
right?
We've met,
What is
but
he
not
thinking?
right?
Right? But one other thing is that if we encourage our children or our friends to conquer this fear of this, slowly, step by step, when you go into one circumstances, two different situation, you realize it's not so bad.
Yeah.
You realize it's not so bad, and you realize that okay, actually Sean is also a little bit nervous, so I'm okay.
Mhm.
So after you break the ice after a while, it become normal, right? It become more comfortable, and you start to talk and you joke about things. And in any situation it's like that, or job interviews or anything. So the more you do it, the more you sort of like break out of your comfort zone and you push boundaries, the more you feel it's okay to be in different situation and you get used to it. Like anything, like you practice the piano or you do anything, once you do it often enough, becomes you and you don't even have to think about that, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely something you can be born with, meaning you can have a bubbly sort of like personality naturally as a kid, but then if you don't encourage that, if you don't been put in situation, then it's not blossomed to the maximum
Right.
ability level of what you can. Yeah.
But you have to get out there and have the opportunities to
Yeah.
practice, and that's one of the
Yes.
things as an actor, I remember the first time my wife still makes fun of me, and which is interesting too. My wife is also a huge introvert. Like
Yeah.
she goes up on
I believe
stage,
you.
she sings out loud, but she's
Yeah.
a
To
massive
become this personality.
boom, I am big,
Yeah.
I'm on stage, and then 2 seconds later she's like, "Whew,
Oh, I want to go home.
let's go
Yeah.
home to my
Yeah.
space and
That's me. Yeah.
feel comfortable." And so it's
Yeah.
interesting, but as an actor, I remember the first time that I was working on a big movie set. Um, and I got to work with the amazing director Ron Howard and working on one
Right.
of his big movies, Angels and Demons. And when I was
Right.
on set, I'm standing there and I'm in this room that they built on a soundstage. It looked like the Vatican. It was huge. There were hundreds of people standing
Yeah.
around watching. The crew was massive, like just a ton of people. And then the main actors walked out and they just were cool as ice. And I got
Yes.
a chance to ask them today. I was like,
Mm.
"What do you do? How do you do this?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"Sean, I've done this hundreds of times now. It's
Yeah.
practice. It's
Yeah.
practice." And if someone isn't confident today, what's the first step they should take?
If someone is not confident,
Yeah.
I think of course, it's easy to tell people, like, go out more and do this kind of thing more. I think one of the first steps, like my students, my mentees who came to me on my class, I would congratulate them first because they actually actively looking for a solution, right?
Yes.
If you know already that, I'm a little bit shy or I have difficulties in making friends with people, or when I speak in front of people, I get nervous. That's the first things. That is self awareness. If you know this about yourself, it's already halfway through, to your wanting to be better, right? And then
Yes.
you can either go to a coaching class if you have the means to, or you can sort of like, encourage yourself to go out and meet more people. It can
Yes.
be just like going to have a coffee with somebody, with a friend that you haven't met in a long time. So I always advise my student to try a little bit of a time, try to be a little bit uncomfortable, just so you realize it's not so bad. So, for example, if you go into a coffee place, Starbucks, and you order your drink, try to strike a little conversation with someone who works there, right? For me, it will always be like, is it busy today? Or just do a little bit small talk with people. And then you
Hmm.
can see that they happily respond to that. And then something sort of boosts your confidence a little bit, knowing that, okay, that's a nice conversation. Or if
Yeah.
you were there, like I turn around, like, how's your day, Sean? Like, or if I don't know you, so that you can say something, anything, right? You can say, um, wow, you order a lot of, like, that's a strong drink, for example, right? Just
Yes.
anything to strike a conversation, or you just like lift your head up and you say hello to the person that walked past you. That is already something big to me. It has to be a progress that is continuous, and it came from something very small. To me, confidence is not just about going in front of like a big crowd and talk big and say, I am confident, you can do it, I can do it, so can you. Like, I don't think that's the height of it, but I don't think anyone has to go through that. It is just about lifting your head up and smile and having eye contact with people. Firstly, to me, that is the most important thing, and then things will go from there.
I 100% love that. One of the most confident people I've ever met was also the quietest. In university, there was a guy who at my school, his name was Paul Kim, and he would walk around and he just really quiet, but just
Yeah,
this confidence that was just like, you're like, wow, it flowed off of him. And I was just like, what is up with this guy? One
yeah.
day, one of my friends was talking to me and you're like, hey, you know Paul, that guy? I said, yeah, Paul's so interesting. She's like, he's the national champion in Hapkido, like this Korean
Wow.
martial art.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, really? And I was big in the martial arts and I sparred him. He whooped my butt in like 3 seconds. He was so good, but
It's
he
so
was the
good.
kindest and just most gentle
Yeah.
person. But what was wild was that you would never know it
Mm.
because he just had this quiet confidence that came off of him. And he seemed so soft. He
Mm,
seemed so gentle, but there was confidence that was part of it. And I want to
mm.
ask you this. What do you think is the biggest myth about confidence?
Uh, I think the one that I just said, because I know it's a trend in Vietnam now that
Yeah.
people are teaching kids and people to be confident in ways that is, to me, quite personal, quite over the top. Um, like, and you sort of like, of course, we want to teach our kid, like, you can be anything you want to be, but the core that build up to that is inside you. So I often speak with kids. Recently, I did a TED talk with BIS International School, and I talk about confidence, also the power of confidence. But in the end, when I talked to the kids, which is very interesting for me because you can talk about anything, right?
Yes.
But the thing that is most important to me, the confidence came from your root about who you
Yes.
are, about kindness, knowing your core value. And that is when you can be confident just being who you are. Just be who you are and comfortable with being who you are with your core value, knowing you're kind, knowing that you have values, be whatever, right? You don't have to be rich to be confident. You
No.
can just doing what you love, or being in a humble job. And that is what I love about Ollie, my husband, and yourself. You have your own value in what you do. It's not
Yeah.
the presumptions of show business about, oh, I have to be a super rich businessman or successful, have power to have that confidence. No,
Yes.
you can be anyone. You can do whatever things that you want to. But if you have that core values, what you believe in your heart, you can be confident. You can be who you are. So to me, being confident is just being comfortable, living life with your
Yeah.
own values, and happy to project that to people.
I love that. And I think that that's something that we talk to in my financial podcast. I have a podcast about money, and I talk to some of the biggest financial experts in the US, people that
Yeah.
help people get money. And one of the things that they said is stop equating wealth with money.
Mm,
Wealth and money are not the same things. Like you
same,
can be
same.
wealthy and have a medium amount of money, and you can be poor and have all the money in the world. And it's the same thing. Like you have to try to reframe things. For me, I have all of my podcasts, and they serve the same purpose. I love teaching. I love
Yeah,
teaching, but I can't reach enough people in one classroom. So I decided to create a larger classroom with all of my podcasts to teach people about money, to teach people about confidence, to
that's
teach people
amazing.
about communication. Because for
Yeah,
me, at the core of it, is I want to be able to make a difference. And I think that
yeah,
that's what you're alluding to with the values. But like, and I wanted to talk about Vietnam a little bit because right now I hear a lot of Vietnamese people, you say, my English isn't good enough. I don't have the skills, or I can't communicate, or I just am not good with words, whether it be in Vietnamese or English. What would you say to them?
I think it's easy. Like I see that a lot, even in what people would think, right? In show business, is people also think too little of themselves, or then try to sort of build this whole thing, his whole persona about themselves. I do understand where people come from, right?
Yeah.
If you come into a room with international business, with international people, you
Yes.
don't necessarily understand people's culture, or you know who they are or who you are. It is very difficult to have that confidence. But what I would like to say is be interested, right? I have
Mm,
this conversation with kids, with people that are my fans, or not my fan, even my anti fan, and they would argue with my um with certain opinions of mine. And what I encourage people to do is to look to look out and beyond a little bit more, like try, right? Instead of criticize something, maybe read a little bit about something else, or watch a little bit of something else, open your horizon. And once you do, you realize that there's a lot of similarities within cultures. There's a lot of similar struggles within people, and so with that, I always remind the people who I coach, or people I talk to, or people who I want to inspire, everybody's the same. And that is
yes.
why when I host MC host with David Beckham, or the royals of Dutch, or anyone, or prime minister, it's people important like that. To me, the most important thing for me is to remember that everyone is the same, and we're just doing our job.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if he's an international superstar, or he's way richer than any of us combined. He's
Right.
still a father, a husband, a person, and he has his own struggle with his own life. So I think that for people who sort of like struggle with identity or um, a, l- a bit of confidence because they don't speak the language, or maybe they don't think that they dress the right way, or just you know just go for things, because that's what I really admire about certain people. They just go for things, right? Just try out, just speak to somebody. That is something, the freedom of just try to do something different, or just open a different point of view, or talk to someone new, is to me is very powerful.
Yes.
You see, you travel a lot, like you go to
Yeah.
Sapa, you see girls selling stuff on the street. They speak in perfect English. But why? Because they didn't have any fear. Like they
Yeah.
go and they
They just
talk,
do
and
it.
then they learn, right? They just do
Mm,
it.
they just
Where
do it.
we sit in one place, like so worry about things, like, oh my god, what is he gonna think, right? And
Yeah.
then you end up not doing anything because you are so much in your shell, right? So
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is just to sometimes be fearless and just go for things.
There was right now trending around the world is this kid from Japan.
Okay.
And he was at the game where Japan got beat by Brazil. And he's a streamer from Japan, and he's got this funny blue hair, and he booked the ticket in the Brazilian section. So like
Yeah.
he's sitting there and the Brazilians are cracking. He's streaming the whole time. And
Right.
then afterwards he
That's smart.
streamed being heartbroken and just like crying. And then they interviewed him on Brazilian TV, and it was probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It was just hilarious. Like Brazilian fans were walking up drying his tears with the Brazilian flag, and he's
Oh,
like, "Oh, stop."
that's good.
But he was doing the interview in English, and his English was
Right.
horrible. But he did it with passion. He spoke with passion. He spoke from his heart. Even Mr. Beast followed him yesterday, and he's like doing a
Oh,
react video. He's like, "Mr. Beast is following me,"
oh,
because he did
that's
what
sweet.
he did with confidence. He did what he did with
Mhm.
passion, and the rest of it didn't matter. The rest of
Yeah.
it was secondary because
Yeah.
he came in and he projected confidence. Now, I want to ask you that. Have you ever met people with like average English who were still great communicators, and what made them so effective?
Yeah. My makeup artist, for example, bless him, he didn't go to high education, or is very, you might say, like, well educated, because he came from a lesser um yeah, background family, so he didn't get the chance to, right? But he's very good at doing my makeup. V might know him. He doesn't speak so, like, well, he didn't, how do like, I don't really know, but whenever he would see my husband coming in, he would be like, "Hi, Ollie," or he worked with a lot of like business women and men, sometimes comes from brand who came from all over the world. He's just like happy.
That's
He's just
awesome.
happy, and he just does it and said, "Oh, it's beautiful," like stuff like that, right? It is not even a proper sentence, but everyone loves him because he has
Yeah.
this niceness about him. He's genuinely just like be there doing his job, and he just like people. So I
Yeah.
think that's the most important thing, that you're able, like you said, maybe like the Japanese fan, like you just said, he was able to show that passion, or this niceness, or this genuine behavior with people. And so I think, yeah, I think definitely is a stigma in Vietnam about people's ability to speak English, right? And they would crucify even our conversation now. I'm
Um,
sure people will like crucify what I say. What mistake did she make? Like, oh my God. But at the end of the day, it's a tool of communication. It is not meant to be like, oh, I'm better than you because my English is better than you, or, I'm stupid, therefore I make mistake. It
yeah.
is like, if we can communicate, in a way that is nice, and it's a conversation, long lasting, you remember something about me, it means something, right?
Yeah. One of the things that I think, and I think that if there's a trend in Vietnam and a lot of countries right now, and I think it's ridiculous, and I'm not going to throw the whole test under the bus, but I think anybody who starts posting your IELTS score, I've met people with crazy high IELTS
Oh
scores
gosh.
who couldn't
Yeah.
have a conversation with me. Like
Yeah,
they
it's a
were,
tactic. It's a tactic, qualification. Like you do this, so it's a minimum standard for you to get into university. For me, people are like, oh, what is your I get it. Like people is proud that they can achieve something on higher standard, which is great. But like I said, it's not everything, is it? Unless you go to
Exactly.
university with it.
And I think that what you should be more focused on is, can you communicate with someone? And one of the things, like
Totally.
when I used to teach and people were like, they would want to be trained for the IELTS exam. And the problem is with the IELTS exam, you have to try to use all these fancy words. And I said,
Yeah,
actually, as a great communicator, you're doing the opposite.
you
You're
don't. Yeah.
using the very simple words that have a lot of power. And those words are more powerful. I like, you look at in even in great writers, if you take someone like, if you go back to like 1900s to Wuthering Heights, Charlotte, the Bronte sisters, or things like that, I have a hard time reading those books because there's so
Yeah.
many words that are fancy. But
Right.
give me someone like Hemingway, Ernest Hemingway. It's just
Yeah.
simple, straight to the point, and it's very.
Definitely.
I think that when you're working in communication, you have to find that. But I want to ask you this: what's one simple thing that someone can do to become a better speaker and a better communicator today?
Uh, okay. So I know this because I people comment a lot when I go onto a reality show being a judge. People usually often like what I have to say, or in my debating, or about arguing my point. They like it because I think the most important thing about communication is to answer the right question.
Oh,
I
ooh,
feel I feel like people don't listen enough. Like people can read something and then they are so emotional about one point, and then they start talking about that, where the whole gist of the writing or the conversation is not about that. It's not the main point. So if you can say whatever you say, you can talk a lot, but you don't get to the point. To me, it doesn't mean much. So to me, if you want to be an effective communicator, you have to listen. You
yes.
have to use your logical mind to try and understand. So what is it that they ask of me? So you can answer that to the point, right? And then able to elaborate that a little bit so people have more information. So that's what I teach people, right? So what did you have for lunch today? Be like, oh, just rice. That's it. There's nothing else. So you need to be able to embellish a little bit, maybe like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed my lunch. I had rice today. It's not what I usually eat, but I tried that today. So it's something more information for you to have a conversation back and forth with me, right? So to me, it's a very simple thing. First of all, listen and, you know, talk to the point, embellish a little bit, and then try to go back and forth, try to ask people question also. It's not just about you, right? Of course, the interview, maybe you ask me more, but I'm also interested in what you have to say.
I had First of all, that is spot on. I recently had on this podcast, I had on one of the world experts in communication.
Right.
And he came in and told me something completely different than I thought he would.
Hmm.
I thought he was going to come on and talk about confidence and how to say the right things. And he said the most important thing for communication is listening.
Yeah.
He said, you have to slow down. And, if I go back to your example back there, you were talking about eating rice. And with him, he might have slowed down and go, why is rice different for you? Like, what do you normally eat? Because
Mm.
suddenly he's anchoring into what was actually being said. There was this great hostage negotiator that worked for the FBI for
Oh,
years.
I love that. All of
And
these
yeah, this
inspection shows and
right?
crimes.
So
I love it.
interesting. But the
Yeah.
guy was saying one of the techniques that they use is mirroring back the last three words of what someone
Yes.
says. So the last three words. So you begin your sentence with the last three words that the other person said, because they're just like, this person hears me. They are
Yeah.
listening. But you're right. Are you answering the right question? Because they might ask five of them, but really, what the one they want answered was number six, that they were only partially saying, but you have to pay attention to get there.
Definitely. And also, what I always try to teach my mentees sometimes, when you are in conversation and at the beginning. when you haven't got the confidence to contribute to the conversation, firstly, you need to learn how to listen and to look interested. A
Yes,
lot of kids
yes,
nowadays will like, be on their phone and look elsewhere or looking down. Like, no, I told them, I said, look at the person, like have a little light in your eyes, a little bit smiling, listened with anticipation. That's when people know that you are interested in their
yes.
conversation. Don't look away. Just make people, how people will like you is that they wanted to be listened to, right? If you show that you're distracted or you don't look them in the eyes, then you're not communicating. You're communicating the moment that you look at people.
I was talking to my daughter, and she will have a teacher that comes to the house that helps her with piano or art or something. And I told her, every time you talk to someone, you look them in the face. Yeah, Lonnie, did you have a good day? Yeah, teacher. I said, no, 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 no. You look her in the
Yeah,
face. You look her
same.
straight in the face and you talk
Mm,
to her in her face. Because if that
yeah,
person showed here, if they came here and they took the time to come teach you, you take the time to talk to them directly.
definitely.
It is
Yeah,
respect and it is good communication. I want to ask
totally.
you this though. Do you still get nervous before public speaking? And
Yeah.
how do you handle it?
Yes, and it is a good thing. I think it's a good thing being nervous, because you
Mhm.
care. I totally believe that. Because if you don't care, then you just become this thing where you just have script and you just talk without emotion. You need to have emotion in whatever you go into. So I think for me, being nervous is not a bad thing, right? And I always say to people, I got nervous like talking in front of when I went to this TED talk because my audience were different. They were like from schools. They are not
Yeah.
people in show business. You don't know what they think or if do they know who I am? Like, are they interested? So you got to be trying to be interesting for these people. So yeah, you do get nervous. And one of the things that I always tell myself is just to take, it's very simple, just take a deep breath and then you exhale slowly. That's when as you know, in your acting, it will slow your heart rate down and you start it to go into with more ease, right? But
Yep.
I don't think it's a bad thing. Even if you're nervous, just go through with it, just do it. And like I said, slowly practice, right? If you don't do that often enough, of course you will get nervous. Like, can I still do it? But a lot of practice will help you. For example, I don't do a lot of fashion show anymore, but now I'm being asked to do a fashion show in August and I am nervous about it, right? Like I haven't done that for a long time. Like, am I still be able to bring it? Like, am I fit enough, like physically, so that I can persuade people that I'm still good doing this? So I have to then try and have a better diet, exercise. And then soon enough, I will have to practice a lot on heels again because with my kids, I don't wear a lot of heels now, right? And I will ask for the clothes so that I can bring back home and I will practice, practice, practice so that I don't make mistake. So I think that's one of the things you can do. Like just do a lot of practice. Just don't think that you can go in there and just wing it. Doesn't matter how big or small. A lot of people say, oh, I'm sure with V, she can't just go on stage and just like, oh, I see how I feel and I sing how I feel. No, it's a lot of practice, a
Yeah.
lot. And then even when you practice like 1,000 times, there will still be like something that is not right there at that moment that you couldn't anticipate. So I said to people, if you practice 10, maybe you get on stage and you get to 7, 8. You're lucky to get a 9. And if you don't practice at all, you got a 2 and a 3, and then you don't know. So you just have to practice. Don't think that anything is too small. You just have to do it.
My wife practices so much, and she goes back to classes and works with singing coaches and people because she realizes that she can never be ready enough. You have to constantly be putting in the energy, constantly be uh, I got to talk to some Navy SEALs who are awesome guys, and they talk about sharpening the sword. You have to keep your sword sharp. You
Definitely.
you have to be out there being ready. Just because I'm a top of what I do, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it's always going to be there.
Oh,
You have to kind of keep it up, you know?
definitely, definitely. And also, right, when you think that you're in the top of your profession is when you can be a bit of, comfortable, cocky, which I was there too, right? When you're like, oh, people just accept my thing, right? Whatever it is. But Ha Anh came on stage, it's fine. She make a little mistake, it's fine. And then I would go outside, I would do like a hosting MC host in LA or in London. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. I have to be careful. I have to practice because these people, they are not like the Vietnamese audience who already know who I am and who loves me and forgives me. No, you have to constantly bring up the standard for your craft. And that is why you can be better and better, or at least maintain to a certain level because you got to have pride in what you do. So yeah, you have to practice.
I love it. One last question. If you could give one communication lesson to every young person in Vietnam or the world, what would it be?
One lesson.
One piece of advice. What
One
would you
piece of advice. Um, well, first of all, I think that people needs to understand that real communication is very important. A lot of people, a lot of kids now may not think so, right?
Yeah.
Because they communicate a lot on social media and they go on there, they equate the number of likes to communication or yeah, so you kind of lose touch with reality. You lose touch with communication otherwise. So I'm just starting from the basic, the bottom here, which I think is important to every kid is to be able to say hello.
Right?
Just to be able to say hello to people when you walk out of the door, acknowledge people, the taxi driver, whoever that it is helping you. That communication between human and human is the base to communication, and it's the base to kindness and humanity. That is something that you can just simple that you can just do is to
Yes.
basically say hello, how's your day, or thank you very much, because that is something that I feel that a lot of not just kids, like adults too, forgets. You do forget, right? Because you don't think about it. A lot of models, for example, come into the room and just like look, like, not acknowledge, not saying hello, not connect. And I always say to them, why? I'm here. Like, why don't you come and say hello to me? Like,
Yeah.
ask me a question or do something, Like, why are you in your corner looking nervous? Like, maybe you're nervous. Maybe I think, I know if I'm kind enough, if I'm trying to be understanding enough. I might think, oh, maybe she's nervous. He's nervous. He doesn't know how to approach me. But if I'm mean, I can think like, oh, like they're no good. Like this, you just like get stuck up and just sit in your own corner and not talk to people. So yeah, I think it's basic. I think it's basic just to lift your head up because sometimes I do go into my mood, my introverted mood, where I just want to put my cap down, not looking at people, just go on about my day. It is very easy for you to be in that pattern of a busy life and whatnot. But it's important to be able to remind yourself to just look at people, say hello, smile, say thank you to people. And that is the base of everything.
Yes. I think one of the things that is so important for me is to just remember, like you said earlier, we're all human.
Yeah.
When I got to work in Hollywood, one of the things that I realized about the most famous people in the world, they're just like you and me. They are just like you and me. They love,
And nice. The
yeah,
more famous the people are, the nicer that they are. Like
yeah,
they don't have to be somebody like you don't have to show they don't have to show their importance. They're just themselves, right?
yeah,
So it's just
100%.
nice. It's just who they are. So that's why I said it's the basic of humanity is to connect to each other on a very basic level of kindness and niceness and be interested.
Yes,
That's that.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Where can people go to find out more about you and what you do? People want to learn and be coached by you. Where can they go and look up your coaching services?
So, okay, it's interesting because at the moment I'm trying out. So it's not as regular that, I haven't set it up to be people can just take class whenever they want to. I do it every 1.5 a month in Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi rotating.
Mm,
So it's best if people can go on my page and contact me, because sometimes I gather a group and then I do that. I at the moment I try to put together a curriculum so that it's most suitable for a certain age group or certain types of professions.
that's
So I
awesome.
do that sometimes. And yeah, looking forward to sort of expand it a bit more so people have more access to it.
That's awesome.